How many hours do you work or put into this every week?
My answer will make a lot more sense if you understand the vision that I have for my coaching business. So, the vision that I have is one day I don't have to trade time for money because having freedom and having flexibility is one of the things that I wrote down on my most desired list, right? So working backwards from that vision, which is I don't want to always be tied to my desk. I want passive income. Let's break down what that actually means. It means you have offers that people want that they could get at any point in time without you having to put in work every single time. And it also means you have your most ideal clients coming to you every week or every month, like clockwork. That is my assumption of how to make my vision come true. The freedom to live my life and not have to trade time for money, not be tied to my desk. Okay, so stepping backwards, how do I create something where people can just come to me anytime? Or how can I make myself available so that people come to me weekly or people come to me monthly? To answer this question, we have to understand how people buy because at the end of the day, they're buying something. So we have to look at the purchase journey. A very typical purchase journey starts with awareness. People have to know that you exist. That's step one. And then they're actually in the consideration phase for a long time. And then once they decide you have the solution to their problem that they need to be solved at this point in time, they will buy. That's the purchase journey. Most people stay in that consideration phase for a long time until they're ready or until they actually need your thing. And that's because what I'm offering is not a $1 thing, $5 thing. It's not an impulse purchase decision. You know, sometimes you go to Target and then there's the thing they put in front. Those are what I consider impulse purchases. You didn't go into Target intentionally looking for that thing that they put in front. You see it as, oh, cool, cute, grab it, put it in your cart. Those are impulses. What I'm offering don't fall into that category. That means people need time to consider you before they would buy the thing that you're offering. Okay, so that is the purchase journey for my people. Now, the people also fall under two categories. There are people who are actively seeking something that will solve their problem. And then there's the opposite of that segment, which is the reactive people. So let me break that down. The proactive people, because they have a need, they're proactively trying to get help. So, how do they proactively look for help? They're Googling a solution, or they're going on LinkedIn to search for a solution, or they're going on YouTube to search for a solution. These are basically the three main places that people go when they're very proactive. They're actively searching for someone or something. That's one category. The other side, the opposite, the reactive people, that's the group that falls under that purchase journey, where they're actually in the consideration phase for a long time. They might consider you, but it's not really urgent. If it's very urgent, they fall under the proactive category. So if I want to capture the very proactive people, that means I would need to make my SEO really, really awesome. So I show up on top of Google, or I show up on top of LinkedIn, or I show up on top of you. I would do that if I try to target the very proactive people. Now, the way I target the reactive people means first I have to make myself be seen. That's how they become aware of me. That's the awareness phase. Once they're aware, then they might fall into the consideration phase. It's basically a funnel. When they're in the consideration phase, I have to continue to be seen because one day when their need is actually top of mind, they will think of me. But when their need is not top of mind, I won't be their top of mind. So how do I be seen all the time? That means I have to show up. That means I show up on LinkedIn, or I show up on YouTube, or I show up in my Facebook page, or I show up in my newsletters. That's why I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's why I'm very active in sending out newsletters, is so that I'm top of mind when someone needs something. Now, usually there's more people in the reactive segment versus the proactive segment. I actually have not touched my SEO. I would assume that I don't perform very well in searches anywhere. Not YouTube, not LinkedIn, not Google. I just have not yet paid attention to it. I'm paying attention to the reactive people and I'm trying to move them down that purchase funnel as best I can. So coming back to your question, how often do I work? I work all the time. I am showing up. And the more I show up, the more these people who are in the consideration phase move down to lower funnel. And then when I have an offer to make, I make the offer. I invite you to come find out what this offer is and let's see if it'll work for you. That's when they make the purchase decision. But that's right now in my current phase of my business. I'm showing up all the time. But I envision one day I would have so much content that I have created already, I could reuse, rinse, and repeat. So I still have to show up. I don't think that I could ever not show up. Again, there's always going to be people in the consideration phase. If I don't show up, I will not be top of mind. And when they actually have a need, they will go somewhere else because I'm not top of mind for them. And it doesn't mean that they don't like me, right? It doesn't mean that they refuse to work with me. It just means I'm not top of mind. They forgot about me. They would go somewhere else. And that's why I would always show up. But when I have a library of content, I could just keep on reusing them. So that's what I mean by one day I no longer have to put in so much time and effort to show up. And right now, I'm also tracking performance of my content. There are pieces that perform better than others. It's kind of like experimenting, A/B testing. I will pay attention to the content that perform better, and then I would try to learn from it and see if I can replicate it. So one day when my library is full of high performing content, then it's rinse and repeat.
Do you run into any brain freezes when it comes to creating content?
Yes, because it happens, it means that I have to create space for creativity. That
So
also
you
means I cannot just be on this mechanical mode of operating. I have to create space. I need time to journal, right? I need time to just sit and just be. That's when creativity comes. Does that answer your question? It's kind of a long way of answering your question.
No, it makes sense. I mean, so longer term, you need to build up the content library, and that'll help generate the passive income side. And then to create content, you're looking at content that's performed well, but you
Yeah.
also need the creative space to create that content, which is
Yes.
important because it's really easy to get into an operating mode, which is kind of what happens a lot of times when you work.
Exactly. And I didn't touch on the passive income side. I am building my passive income stream slowly. I currently have a self-paced course that I sell. Because it's self-paced, I don't have to put in extra effort. I'm not scaling it very much these days, but I plan to when I'm ready. A lot of people think that there's a huge upfront cost to start a course because you have to record a bunch of content, you have to plan everything out. I actually came up with a hack. The hack is since I have a group program that is live and I've done the live cohorts many times, I basically recorded every single session and I edit out other people's faces and I just sell the recording. And I had that intention in mind going into my very first live group program. I knew that I wanted to record everything and then sell it forever. So to me, the upfront startup cost of creating the self-paced course is very low compared to other people's approach where they put in a lot of effort to create content, record everything, edit everything. They would have a huge upfront cost. But for me, since I was doing the group program anyway, the upfront cost for me is very low. The downside to my approach is my videos are recordings. They're not highly polished. They're not edited, so it looks good and entertaining. That
Yeah.
would be the downside of my approach.
How did you start and land on the group idea versus one-on-ones?
At that time, when I offered the group program, I was not maxed out in my one-on-ones, not at that time, but I knew that I wanted to scale. And I also knew that I needed to create something that was not as expensive as private coaching because not everyone wants to invest that much money in themselves. So to keep the price lower, it has to be a group thing. So that's why I created a group program.
One of the things you wanted was a empathetic connection with the end user. For those who've graduated from your program,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
It looks like an invitation to work with me longer after the group program. I basically have a path mapped out where I could upsell and I could downsell. Right now, my group is about interview prep, but
Mhm.
that's step one. Step two is your onboarding. And if you're a high performer and you are very ambitious, it's in your best interest to decrease that onboarding time so that you are seen in the best light ASAP. So you don't take 3 months to onboard, you only take about a month to onboard, and then you're already positioned as a leader right off the bat. That's step two. And then step three is get promoted, or if you're not a manager yet, become a people manager, or if you're already a people manager, then become a director. And then there's a step after that, which is you think that titles will make you happy, or you think that getting into big tech will make you happy, but it actually does not. So at the end of that journey is I help you actually feel good about yourself. That is the coaching arc that I have already mapped out. Now, the entry point for most people is interview prep because that's where people feel the most urgency. And the entry point into working with me is that group program because it's not the most expensive thing. It doesn't require long-term commitment. It's short-term. It's like a trial. And if for some people, they actually don't want to invest that much in a group coaching program, then I downsell them to my self-paced course. I don't start with the course because, again, coming back to what makes me really happy is that emotional connection. If you're in my self-paced course, I'm not going to have any time with you. So that is the reason why my first offer is the group program. And I upsell or downsell depending on what your situation is.
You're essentially offering a management of your PM career, right?
Yes.
From
Yes.
start to kind of where you are when you'll be happy. But do you have a whole arc planned out when you started?
No, absolutely not.
So it's come from customer demand, and as you engaged more with the customers, you
No, it
see.
didn't. It did not come with customer demand because there's actually not a lot of demand when you think about it, especially the last piece where they just want to feel good, they just want to sleep better. That has super low demand, but there's definitely demand when it comes to interview prep. I mapped this out after a lot of journaling.
Do you think it's important to have this mapped out?
Yes, I think it is important. It's basically your product strategy. So if I PM myself, I'm the product, that arc is my product strategy.